I get it. I understand the feeling. It may feel like you may think that you're invisible, but the truth is you're not. You're just unrevealed. And today is the day for you to go from being missing to being buried under all the noise, all the old stories, all the messages that you've told yourself that have never belonged. And let yourself be the you that only you can be in this world, right here, right now, today. Today is your day for visibility. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, international best-selling author of 40 books and counting. Over the course of the last 40 years as a marketing expert, I've helped more than 5,000 people just in the book process alone, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller. Bestseller is the day one launch strategy, but everything else that goes beyond that. In addition to that, I've worked with other marketing companies, all the way from large companies to totally small companies, multi-billionaires to stay-at-home moms, companies that are in the Fortune 500 to, brand new startup companies, and all of the everything in between. I've been so privileged to be trained by some of the most incredibly amazing people that, let's be real, the real powerhouses in this world are ones that when you come up to them, you're never even going to know that they are the amazing, probably extremely wealthy individual that they are. It just really doesn't show. I mean, they don't have to show off. They don't have to show the thing. Okay, they don't worry about visibility. And I want you to be at a place today where you stop worrying about it too. Where you show up in the world as the you that is needed, the you that is you. To be you, to fill the space in this world that only you can fill. And be powerfully who you are. Today, I want to be your reset, the reset of your visibility and how you also think about yourself. Because the only difference between you and a multi-billionaire really has to do with the mindset. I can tell you from experience. Errol, I was so blessed to get to know him. But Errol, at 16 years old, was literally eating out of garbage cans because he was homeless. He went from there and went and got a job working in the mines. His uncle happened to own the mine, but he had to go through the same hiring process. In point of fact, actually, if I remember the story correctly, his uncle didn't even know initially he was working there. But he gained favor by working hard, by showing up, by allowing those that had gone before him to mentor him and show him what it meant. And Errol used to always say, nothing happens until a sale's made. His encouragement was to start off each day doing the things that mattered, the things that were going to ring the cash register, the things that were going to make the company money. All the other stuff, all the planning, all the playing with ChatGPT, which is a blast, I get it. All those kind of things, they don't matter if they aren't activities that are going to put money in your pocket. You can do like I did. You can outline the most amazingly wonderful event that's going to cost about probably $50,000 or $60,000 each time to put on that event. And you could bring in different sponsors or things like that and absolutely do that. And ultimately we will. But in the short term, because I want to do an event for you and with you, in the short term, hi, Chloe. Or hi, Chloe, please. Either way, glad to have you here with us. In the short term, I want to do an event that's really going to impact your life. And so we went back and we really looked at, okay, how are we going to put together an event that makes money? Not that just allows you to transform, but also allows us as a company to stay in business doing it. It's a challenge. I get it. And especially coming from a ministry background, we have to learn the skills of, really actually valuing ourselves and then charging what we're worth. And then we need the exposure. We have to do the things that are going to, not maybe, not they might, but are actually going to ring the register, that are going to bring money in. Some of that has to do with being real about the marketplace we're in. Okay, I can tell you from experience, because I've been in book space for the last 20 years. Today is probably not, this time frame in the world is probably not the time you want to throw your hat in the arena as being the latest and greatest ghostwriter, or even publishing company or those kind of things. I know a lot of people that are waning in that. Now, I know some people that, have been doing it for a really, really long time that are still getting it. And I know a lady who is still thriving as an agent for authors and gets them signed to contracts to book people. Okay, I mean, all of those are possibilities. But when it comes to the actual publishing industry, starting a publishing company right now, December 2025, if you're listening live, it's not the best timing for it. It's going the same way. And I've been around long enough that I've had to make some pivots. It's just the nature of things. And one of the pivots that we made around the 2010 or 15 range was moving out of website development. I mean, technically, I still have 2 or 3 hosting clients, and I do still have my hosting server. But, hosting is dirt cheap these days. You can probably get hosting from GoDaddy for as little as $5 or $6 a month. We used to charge $200 or $300 a month for the same exact stuff. Now, additionally, our costs used to be, it used to cost us a couple $1,000s for the server that we were hosting you on versus, you can get a dedicated your own server for $200-300. When the prices are down by 10%, down to 10% of what it was, it allows things to be. The point is you've got to know who you are, what the world needs, and how you can take the person you want to serve and meet their needs. Okay? That's where we are product-wise. Clarity. Remember, we've got clarity, consistency, and connection. So connection is your heartbeat. I know you. I know you want to connect. I know you want to help people. I get that. Okay? Then comes the clarity. The clarity in knowing this is who I am. These are the things I'm good at. And there's this whole array of them, and all of us have it. And I'll tell you honestly, that thing that you do so well that isn't on the list, if you're writing out everything that you could do, is probably the it. Okay? It really probably is. Because you do it so well that you don't even think about how great you are at it. And you assume everybody else must be. But I can guarantee you, whether you're talking things as simple as doing dishes, tying your shoes, walking across the living room, there are people that struggle with that. There are people, you may be one of those kind of people, just using my own life as an example. You may be one of those kind of people. Hey, Maurice, glad to have you here with us. You may be one of those kind of people who can eat literally anything you want, and you never gain a pound. I'm the kind of person that if I walk by the food that I'm not even going to eat, I gain pounds, okay? And that sounds like an excuse. I had to really take hold of, making sure that I'm moving, exercising every day, massively reducing the calorie intake. And I live in a household with 2 very retired people who In their complete defense, I've told them they should live this life, okay? So I'm not dissing them. But, they want to kind of live their life on cookies and cake. Okay, they've had great lives. They're retired. They should be able to do that. I can't. Okay. At one point at my highest, I was at like almost 460 pounds, or maybe actually a little bit more than that, actually. But right around 460. Hello, Sonny. Glad to have you here with us. I've struggled for a really long time, and I languished in that 390, 400 range for a long time. I mean, it's just recently that I've lost, the last 100, 120-ish pounds that I've lost in the last year and a half. And I'm kind of at a little bit of a plateau. I've done some things that are beginning to help that again. And it's just because the life I want to live and all the places I want to go, I've got to do things differently. But it's a challenge. Now, when you're the person who can eat 25 cookies every day and not gain a pound, you're probably not going to be thinking about the things that you do. Because here's what I know about most of the people that do eat cookies every day and are thin people. I'm not talking about everybody that eats cookies every day, but I'm talking about the people who are still thin. They walk, they run, they do exercise. They are very, very active people. And we tend to look at them and go, oh, well, they just got great metabolisms. Whereas in truth, it probably has to do with they have very active lifestyles accidentally. And you may need to mirror to somebody, here's how I'm motivated and how I have my active lifestyle. And if you were to do these things, you might see a really huge difference. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily what your thing is, but it could be. And that's just a perfect example of people who are really amazingly great. The folks that I work with, Energized Health, I'm not ashamed to always call out John and Chelsea Jubilee and their amazing program at energizedhealth.com. The truth of the matter is John was doing what he now has as his whole business. He was just teaching it to people for free to help people out. And it was actually Dave Ramsey who told him specifically, you need to start a business. In fact, he said, I'll even invest in it. I'll be the person who helps you be able to get it so that it's a business. Now all of us don't happen to live, John lives in a different place now, but at the time he lived in and was friends with Dave Ramsey. Not all of us have that in our life. But you do most definitely. You have this free video, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and I'm here. I'm here to tell you, you're not behind. You're not forgotten. You haven't been overlooked. You're just unrevealed. The fix for that is for you to really, first of all, let that heart come out. Define who you are, what you're good at, and then determine who is it for and what do they need and how does what you do apply to them. You've watched over the course of these last 6 months as I've really developed, gone all the way from having quit being in business at all, to really understand, going through a whole transition of, I'm not going to talk about books, not at all, back to the place where it's like, hey, the real sweet spot, what people really need is, I've got a book, now what do I do with it? And I'm here to help you with that. And more importantly, even than that, is I feel invisible and I want to make an impact. And I'm here to show you how to be visible. You see, ultimately, visibility is a spiritual condition. If you feel invisible, it probably is a mindset and a spirit situation you're dealing with. It almost is. In my case, it was, and in almost everybody I've ever dealt with, it's that. It's mindset. It's the spirit of where you're at. Because clarity comes first and foremost by showing up and doing something. You can steer a moving vehicle. You can't really move a parked car. And then Visibility and the value that comes from visibility, that's a product of consistency. Now, you got to be consistent doing the right things. Okay. A good friend of mine, Kevin, always says practice doesn't make perfect. Because if you practice doing it wrong, you're just going to get to be an expert at how to do it wrong. You got to show up in the right places. Okay. If you're struggling with being seen, being heard, being paid, being visible, and I don't care whether you have 5 followers or 5,000 followers on Facebook, because that's pretty easy to get. And in many cases, many of us that have 5,000 followers, 4,800 of them are, you know, you don't know who they are. You're never going to talk to them, and then you have a couple hundred of those, you have maybe 1 or 2% of them that are really actually truly your friends and people that are following you and that are raving fans. You can do something about that. And you can show up clearly, and people will opt out because they don't want to hear what you're saying. And you can go through and you can look at who's engaging and who isn't. And you can begin to clear out people who haven't engaged for the whole last year. They didn't engage for the last year anyway, so maybe they're not really that, close of friends, and maybe they're not worth your spending time. Seth Godin says, and I quote this all the time, better to have 100 raving fans than 10,000 people who could care less. You would be better off to cut your Facebook, your LinkedIn, any of your other social medias down to 100 people that every time you go live, they want to know about it. If they can't watch it live, they want to catch the replay. You should see your numbers going up. Not necessarily your followers, but your engagement numbers. But that's only going to happen when you're consistent. When you're consistently putting out the clear message that is something that people actually need. Right now, if I'm clearly putting out the message, you should write a book. What I'm going to do is drive you to go and find an AI program, whether you buy one of the ones or you just go to ChatGPT and do it yourself and write your book. It's what's happening. But now if I tell you, after you've got your book out, there's a system to being visible and be seen. Amazon's going to sell 95% of all books that are sold. And of the 2 to 8 million, depending on whose statistic you're looking at, books that will be published just this year, not including the other 100 million books that exist that you could, find on Amazon. Out of those, the average is like 40 sales ever in the lifetime of the book. So if you had a launch weekend, like Philip's book, which is called I Am Blessed, which is free today, which you could totally get, which is now number 1 in 3 categories, came out on Friday. Today's the last day of its run for free. And then we'll do the other things, because after free days are to get a recognition, to get the original going, and to, probably get you somewhere between 10 and 100 sales really quick so that it begins to shake up the algorithm. If Amazon knows that the average book is going to sell 40 in its lifetime, and a book sells 10 in an hour, sells 50 in a day, sells 50 over a weekend, they're like, wow, that book's, something we need to pay attention to. Now, if after that weekend you do nothing else after that, Amazon's algorithm is going to do nothing else with you. But then if you begin to start getting reviews and readers, and people are looking for it and people are searching for it, and when they find it, they actually click on the book. And when they click on the book, they actually begin to buy it. But you got to do the marketing stuff first. You've got to build the recognition so that people are actually searching for your actual book or your actual name as an author. It doesn't go the other way around. It isn't a you build it and they come. It's a you create the market. You expose yourself to the world, and it's the age-old phrase, let yourself on fire and let the world watch you burn. I'm saying all of this today because I care so deeply, and I get absolutely that feeling of invisible and working really hard and screaming at the rooftops and all of that kind of stuff and feeling like you're going nowhere. I get that. But I know that there is a system. We've got it in place so that you can have real human beings read your book, review your book, put a review on Amazon of your book, and do the other advertising kind of things so that it's in communities and people are getting the book out of those kind of sales processes so that eventually you make it into media and the media is actually like, wow, this book is really cool, and they're recommending it. There is a process and a system, and you got to go through all that system until you get to the place where you've done it enough that Amazon's algorithm is like, this book is something that people are getting all the time. We want to get on the bandwagon. And then they start recommending you in the, people who bought this book also are interested in section that's on every time you look at a product on Amazon. And then there's the email that comes out. You might be interested in books like this. And pretty soon you're getting picked up. And then before you know it, then the media is contacting you and saying, hey, we heard your new book came out. We'd really love to have you. Those are the kind of things. Right now, you can approach local mom and pop bookstores and say, hey, I'd like to do a book signing. Eventually you get visibility and you can actually have those bookstores saying, hey, do you got another book coming out? We'd love to have you back. Willie's book. Okay, he did a book signing in, what was it, October, or, I want to say it was early October. Did his book signing. Might have been November. I don't know. Don't quote me on it, people. And it was at a Barnes & Noble. And they typically don't do book signings in December because they're so busy. But they're talking to him and trying to get him. They're asking him, hey, would you come back? Why? Because they sold a bunch of copies of his book over the course of the 2, 3, 4 hours he was there. When you get that visibility and you get that following and people are wanting what you have, yes, your book, but also then beyond that, what can I do more with you? I want to learn from you. I want to take your course. I'd love to have you come and speak to my organization. Those are the times that you then become valuable. So if you're ready for those kind of things, DM Amplify. Let's begin your visibility journey right now today. Comment it, DM it, drop the word Amplify, and let's get you seen and heard so that we can move you to also getting paid. I need you to hear this. The world isn't ignoring you. They just haven't seen you yet. Let's get you to the place where they can see you. Let's be where they're looking so that when they look, they find you. Thanks so much for joining me here today. I hope that you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, that you're doing incredibly, and then until we're together again tomorrow, when we're talking about the fact that clarity doesn't come first, it's actually consistency that comes first. We'll talk about that tomorrow, and I hope you'll join me. And until then, I hope you have a great week.